Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 5 running backs that I cannot stop drafting in fantasy football drafts right now. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do drop a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my 5 running backs that I can't stop drafting right now in my 2023 fantasy football drafts. We begin at number 1 with Derrick Henry, running back of the Tennessee Titans, current underdog ADP, running back number 8 at pick 26.6. Now, over the last couple of years, I have kind of stapled myself as a Derrick Henry hater. Now, I don't actually hate the way that Derrick Henry plays football, and I think that Derrick Henry is one of the most fun running backs to watch in the NFL. We've seen this guy just run a motherfucker over so many times. He is so fun to watch. That stiff arm on Josh Norman was generational. But what I disliked about Derrick Henry was where he was going in fantasy football drafts. It always felt like he was going in drafts close to the guys that have that crazy receiving upside. He was going next to these guys that could get 100+ targets in a season, and Derrick Henry simply just doesn't have the facilities for that big man. He does not have the skills to do that. And that's okay, but based upon where he was getting drafted, I was pretty nervous about that. But now he's the running back 8 at pick 26.6. And now it almost feels like, despite the fact that he was the running back 4.5 PPR last season and the running back 3.5 PPR points per game last season, that people are taking a little bit of a snooze, a nap on Derrick Henry. 16 games played last season, 349 carries, 21.8 per game, number 1 at running back, 1,538 rushing yards, 96.1 per game, second, 41 targets, 2.6 per game, 26th, 33 receptions, 2.1 per game, 25th, 398 receiving yards, 24.9 per game, 9th, and 13 total touchdowns, 3rd at running back. Now, I talked about how he's never going to have that crazy receiving upside. Last year, it seemed like the team really wanted to give him more targets. It felt like they wanted to give him opportunities. Now, he has some crazy drops where the ball hits him directly in the fucking hands and falls directly onto the ground, right? Because Derrick Henry isn't this generational pass catcher. But the fact that he saw 2.6 targets per game last season, and the weapons around Derrick Henry are still pretty gross, pretty mid, Derrick Henry should be able to see a similar amount of targets in 2023. Again, I'm not asking for him to get 70 targets in the season. If he gets 35 to 45, I'm happy with that. Now, the biggest reason as to why I've kind of been on the fade Derrick Henry train is because his yards per carry number keeps dropping, right? His yards per carry has basically decreased every year since 2020. It went from 5.4 to 4.3 in 2021, and then 4.4, so slightly better in 2022. But you get what I mean, right? He was at the top of the world in 2020, and it's been decreasing. And people will argue about the age. He's going to be 29 years old this season. And I get that people worry about the fact that he's not this elite pass catcher and all that. But that is now baked into his ADP. He is no longer this guy that you have to pay out the ass to select. Now, I understand on Underdog, he goes at pick 26.6 in the 3rd round. Very unlikely that in your normal redraft league, he goes that far. I understand that. He's probably a 2nd round pick. But in the 2nd round even, I am jawing at the bit to select Derrick Henry. 1,087 yards created, 67.9 per game, number 3. 88 evaded tackles, 5.5 per game, 5th, 4.1 true yards per carry. Sure, 36th, his true yards per carry, his yards per carry, not good. Bad. But when you have a running back that sees an ass load of carries game in and game out, and they want to use the workhorse running back, Vrabel wants the workhorse running back. It doesn't matter if it's Tannehill or the mayo-eating bastard Will Levis as the starting quarterback of the team. They're going to jam the ball down your throat. And as long as Derrick Henry stays healthy, the motherfucker doesn't need 5.4 yards per carry. He needs 4.2, and he is going to dominate fantasy football. I have been, again, like I said, a hater of Derrick Henry in the past for where where people were drafting him in fantasy football. But right now, it feels like people have gone too far. It's laughable where his ADP is. In these underdog drafts, when he's going in the 3rd round, I'm laughing straight to the bank selecting him. And I'm even happy to select him in the 2nd round of my redraft leagues. At number 2, we move to Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings. Underdog ADP running back 26 at pick 82.5. This man's ADP has been rising at a rapid rate like my cock in the morning. Alexander Mattison is moving up boards because everyone believes that Dalvin Cook is on his way out. See you later, pal. The cook is getting kicked out of the kitchen like he's with Gordon Ramsay on Hell's Kitchen. And the lamb sauce is terrible and the food is fucking raw because Alexander Mattison looks like he is going to step up, take the crown like he's Derrick Henry, and become the RB1 on the team. Now, if we get to June 1st, which is vastly approaching, which is the cut date, where it seems like if you have this big contract and the team doesn't want to eat all of this piece of the contract, you wait till after June 1st and you cut him. The Dolphins are doing that with a couple of players, or with Byron Jones, and that is what it seems like the Vikings are going to do with Dalvin Cook. Now, if he doesn't end up getting released and he's still on the team and we're getting close to August, then this take is bad. Because sure, Alexander Mattison is a great handcuff, and I agree with that. He is one of the best handcuffs in the NFL. When he has to fill in for Dalvin Cook, he steps up big time, and we're going to talk about that. And that's great. Not pick 82.5 great. But if Dalvin Cook gets cut, the competition around Mattison is pretty low. Ty Chandler, Dwayne McBride, Alexander Mattison clearly better than them. I'll read off his stats from last year. Again, they're not very telling. He didn't start a single game last year. It was the RB 49.5 PPR, RB 65 in points per game. He had 74 carries, 283 rushing yards, 18 targets, 15 receptions, 91 receiving yards, 6 total touchdowns, 22nd. But what we want to actually look at is his stats when he played. And he played in a couple of games in 2021, but I'm just going to show you 2 of them. Week 3 versus Seattle, 26 carries, 6 receptions, on 8 targets, 171 total yards, RB7 on the week. Week 5 versus the Detroit Lions, 25 carries, 7 receptions on 7 targets for 153 total yards and a touchdown, RB6 on the week. So it's very clear when you watch Alexander Mattison play, and the stats will tell you when he is the guy, he has the ability to be the workhorse running back on the team. When Dalvin Cook went down, they didn't necessarily look for a committee. They didn't look for some 50-50 approach with the backup 2 running backs, right, that we see every once in a while when a stud back goes down. When Christian McCaffrey got traded, we kind of saw that last year with the Carolina Panthers. In this scenario, if Dalvin Cook, bye-bye, bon voyage, is gone, we are going to see Alexander Mattison step up and be that true workhorse running back on the team. Now, I know the team looked to be a little bit more pass-heavy last season, and sure, I get that. But Alexander Mattison doesn't need to get a zillion carries every single game to be successful. So I think he's going to be just fine. And again, this take is assuming that Dalvin Cook is gone, because if Dalvin Cook is still sitting there a couple weeks from now, a month or so from now, then I'm going to retract this statement. But right now, the feel across the league is that Dalvin Cook's gone. The fucking Minnesota Vikings took Dalvin Cook out of their header on Twitter. They took Dalvin Cook out and put in Alexander Mattison with Kirk O'Chains, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Hawkinson, all those guys. So it really does seem like Alexander Mattison is going to be the guy in Minnesota. Before we move on into RB number 3 here that I just can't stop drafting, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video. We've talked about them a bunch. Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a best ball platform and the best place to play best ball this summer. If you are new to best ball fantasy football, it is all of the best parts about fantasy football. The draft. All you got to do is draft your team, and that's it. There's no waiver wire, there's no trades, and there's no in-season management. Underdog automatically at the end of the week puts your best lineup together for you with all of your highest scorers. They have a new contest, the biggest contest ever, Best Ball Mania 4. $25 to enter, $3 million total to first place. They also just unveiled another tournament, the Poodle 2, only $7 to enter, $60,000 to first place. So if you're interested in this sounds fun. Make sure you click on the link in the video description for a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. If you deposit $100, they give you an additional $100. Make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description. If you only want to deposit $50, they give you an additional $50. Back to the video. Back on into things, moving to the third running back that I just can't stop drafting. We got A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers, current underdog ADP running back 33 at pick 104.7. Now, A.J. Dillon last year was coming at a price that was quite disgusting to me, right? A.J. Dillon was the clear backup for Aaron Jones. Now, A.J. Dillon still gets touches. A.J. Dillon is still going to get targets. But Aaron Jones is the guy at the end of the day, right? It would take an injury of Aaron Jones for A.J. Dillon to fully hit his ceiling. Now, A.J. Dillon is still a usable player. A.J. Dillon is still a good enough player to be in your fantasy lineup even when Aaron Jones is healthy. But he's not a guy that is going to win you your week more than likely unless there is an injury. And where he was going at pick 60, 70, 80 in drafts, I couldn't pay that price because I recognized that the ADP was too high for a guy that it's not like, it never really feels like A.J. Dillon is going to take over from Aaron Jones as the lead back without an injury. But now he's coming off the board at pick 104.7 as the running back 33. He's coming off the board at handcuff price. He is, like Mattison, one of the best handcuffs in the NFL, and he, unlike Mattison, has legitimate value even when Aaron Jones is healthy. Running back 25 in half PPR last season, running back 36 in half PPR points per game, tied with Cam Akers, Brian Robinson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He played in 17 games last year as the backup in that RB2 role, 186 carries, 10.9 per game, 27th, 770 rushing yards, 45.3 per game, 31st. He had 43 targets, 2.5 per game, 24th, 28 receptions, 1.6 per game, 30th, 206 receiving yards, 12.1 per game, 32nd, and 7 total touchdowns, 19th. He had 60 evaded tackles, 3.5 per game, 17th. He had 4.6 yards per touch, 38th, 4.1 true yards per carry, 42nd. In my opinion, I think the Green Bay Packers offense is being slept on right now. Now, do I think that Jordan Love is the second coming of fucking Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers? It would be highly unlikely that the Packers are just that amazing at drafting, right? They got all those years out of Brett Favre, they got all those years out of Rodgers, and then magically come into the door, they have Aaron Rodgers 2.0, right, in Jordan Love. I don't think that's going to happen. But at the same time, do I want to discount Jordan Love to just say that he's god-awful? He's fucking atrocious. He doesn't have any skill. No, I'm not going to say that because he was drafted so highly to be that backup for Rodgers and eventually become the starter, which he is today. So, when my kind of synopsis on A.J. Dillon is I think he's really good. I think he's a really good player that could be your RB2 in great matchups for the Packers. Sure, that's cool. But why I really like him is because he has that play where you can just play him every week. But he has that upside of if Aaron Jones goes down, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, A.J. Dillon could be a top 10 back every single week. Now, him and Aaron Jones, if you try to compare them, they're not very comparable because they're two different kind of backs. Right? You just look at them, they're built different. A.J. Dillon has the quads crafted by the gods above, right? He's amazing. He's got the sick quads. He's a pretty big guy, right? Aaron Jones isn't that big of a guy. But at the end of the day, if something happened to Jones, Dillon is in prime position to succeed for your team. And in good matchups, Dillon's also, like, not the worst guy to start. And again, it's not like you're drafting him as your RB2 like you may have last season. Now he could be your RB4. Chill on the bench. And if something happens to Aaron Jones again, man, the upside is incredible. Moving to the fourth running back here, we got Raheem, the Dream Mostert of the Miami Dolphins. Underdog ADP running back 48 at pick 153.2. Now, the first argument against Raheem Mostert, right now to me, the biggest argument, it's not Devin 2 Chains, I love Devin A-Chain, but it's not him. My biggest worry right now comes from Dalvin Cook, because there's a lot of rumors. A little birdie keeps fucking speaking in my ear, telling me that, hey, Dalvin Cook might be coming to Miami. And if that is the case, then Raheem Mostert is going to get kicked directly in the penis by that move. So, Dalvin Cook gets cut. He goes to some other team. Perfect. If he goes to the Dolphins, then this take will look foolish. But looking at the depth chart right now, we got Devin A-Chain, we got Mostert, and we got Wilson. I love Devin A-Chain for fantasy, but let's be honest. We're thinking about him as this late season push kind of a guy. Couple weeks in the season, he takes over. He's got this good pass catching upside, and boom, he's the RB1 for the Dolphins. But I think early on, Raheem Mostert could slot into your lineup, because I think he's going to be the guy early on. They also still have Jeff Wilson. But this is a Dolphins team that is going to be sprinkling points all over the board. We saw it last year with Tua Tagovailoa. This team was one of the best offenses in the NFL, and they've only gotten better. And again, I know some people say, Nick, if Tua doesn't stay healthy, then all these guys are going to suck. Sure. But the same thing could be said for a lot of teams, right? And a lot of running backs, right? If technically, I guess, like if Tannehill went down, it wouldn't fucking matter for Derrick Henry. But on some of these teams, it obviously does matter. If the quarterback goes down, the ship sinks, right? For instance, if Kirko Chains gets hurt and we have to see the backup quarterback for the Vikings, things aren't going swimmingly. Things aren't going great, right? So while I get the argument because, Tua keeps getting hurt, the same argument could be used against anyone, right? Like, if Josh Allen gets hurt, then maybe James Cook won't be as good. No shit. Sherlock, okay? Running back 26 last year in half PPR, running back 32 in half PPR points per game, running back 48 off the board, pick 153.2. Last year, 16 games played with 14 starts, 181 carries, 11.3 per game, 29th, 891 rushing yards, 55.7 per game, 20th, 42 targets, 2.6 per game, 25th, 31 receptions, 1.9 per game, 26th, 202 receiving yards, 12.6 per game, 34th, and 5 total touchdowns, 31st, 4.6 true yards per carry, 16th, 5.2 yards per touch. Another kind of thing I want to throw into this argument here to be pro Raheem the Dream Mostert is that the defense is looking really good. They get rid of that dumbass zero blitz merchant that was the defensive coordinator last year, and they bring in Vic Fangio. Now, as a head coach, did Vic Fangio work? No, didn't work at all. Needed some Viagra, but as a defensive coordinator, the guy's rock hard. He's running at tip-top shape. He's running off Viagra and Cialis at the exact same time. So, if that defense is as good as I think they could be, what do good defenses do? They stop the other team. And if you have an offense as good as the Dolphins, I hope they are, they're going to run a lot late in the games, and that heavily benefits Raheem Mostert. Now, do I think Raheem Mostert is going to end up as like a league winner that like week 16, week 17, your fantasy championship, your fantasy playoffs, he goes off? Probably not, because I think A-Chain will be a bigger part of the offense at that point. But for the first couple of weeks, if A-Chain looks good pass catching, so they run him out there, but he's not necessarily in there as much as Mostert. Mostert has the big speed too, right? Him, A-Chain, these guys are all fast. The whole Dolphins offense is like a bunch of fucking cheetahs, like Tyreek Hill, right? They're all super fast. So I think Raheem Mostert has that big play upside as well. Again, I get why some people might be worried, right? He's like the backup on a team, but he's basically free, right? Pick 153.2. And he has that upside. So I like Raheem Mostert a ton. Final guy here, Tank Bigsby. If your name is fucking Tank, you gotta be good. Jacksonville Jaguars running back. Underdog ADP running back 49 at pick 159.6. His ADP also moving rapidly. Rapido, as they say. Played 3 years at Auburn with over 800 yards in all 3 seasons. In 2022, at 21 years old, he played in 12 games, 179 rushes for 970 yards, 30 receptions for 180 yards, 15.3% target share, 10 total touchdowns, 6 feet, 210 pounds of pure fucking beast. Now, sure, he wasn't a first-round pick. And sure, I don't expect him to take over from Etienne as the lead back. But let's be honest. Remember when Etienne was drafted? Oh my God, he's this great pass catcher. Oh my God, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. In the NFL, this motherfucker isn't catching a crazy amount of passes. He's not. He's not. I think Tank Bigsby can do that. I think Tank Bigsby, a little bit bigger than ETN, might take those goal line carries. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next fucking Jamal Williams and score a zillion touchdowns like Jamal Williams scored last year, right? Of course not. But I think that Tank Bigsby, another guy who seems like a really good handcuff, would I be surprised if Doug Peterson, who comes in, he inherits ETN, but he drafted Tank Bigsby. He drafted him. Again, it wasn't in the first round, but he drafted him. He made that selection, not that fucking idiot Urban Meyer. So I think Tank Bigsby is going to get some run. Again, the upside really comes if ETN was to get hurt. Knock on wood. We don't root for injuries. Of course, I don't root for injuries. I still think ETN's a decent fantasy pick. I'm probably not going to draft him in a lot of leagues, but he's okay. But this is an offense that I really like, the Jaguars. We saw the Jaguars offense fucking unleashed against the Chargers in the playoffs when they were down by roughly 7 zillion points. Right? The fucking Chargers fans already popped champagne, probably. Bam! We're moving on to the next round. Psych! Fucking Will Smith backhand slap. So Tank Bigsby. There's a lot to like if you watch the tape. I think for his build, he's not the fastest guy on earth, right? He's not Raheem Mostert, but still kind of has that fast breakaway speed. I think that a lot of people are going to, people are already catching waves on Tank Bigsby as this backup with legit upside if he becomes the starter due to an injury, or maybe he just has more of a role. Maybe ETN isn't this workhorse back, right? We saw James Robinson take touches from from ETN last year. So again, it's not really rocket science to see that there's a path for Tank Bigsby to get some legit touches in this offense. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, make sure you check out Underdog again. Link in the video description. Love you guys all. As always, good boy.